are co-working, cohabitating, like one office thing. So we have like, I feel like we've got a decently big house, but with 2 people working from home and then kid on the way in May, like the house just got infinitely smaller because we want to keep a guest bedroom for when people come over, obviously.
Mhm.
And then we basically are not going to have 2 separate offices. So we also are in flux of like a lot of things, which I talk about for the past like month. Our house is in disarray. We're having work done and stuff. So we're like in here in the front living room, which is not the office. And eventually we move back into my office. And then Jess's desk will probably be in there too, at least part time, which she doesn't look like she's excited about. But it gets complicated when like 2 people have meetings, right? Or I'm recording a video. So we have to like find out solutions of what to do during those situations.
I have tips and tricks if
Yeah.
you
I would love them.
Um,
We're in dire need of tips and tricks.
Very rarely do our meetings overlap, though.
Mhm.
So I don't know how I don't know how to get away with that.
Yeah.
Or I just like let her play while I'm like in a meeting that's like less. I have to focus on it
Mhm.
like so much, and so I can just kind of like listen while he's in a meeting that is he's talking and like engaging a lot. So yeah. Also, she's just a really good baby and is like very good at independent play.
Well,
so
that's nice.
get your baby really good at independent play, and then yeah,
Just have one of those good babies that you hear about on TV. You
yeah,
know.
right. Just have one of those.
I'm a firm believer that your child adopts whatever personality like
Yeah.
you guys have. Which
Mhm.
I'm sorry for people that have wild children because I'm calling you wild, but
You heard it here first.
but you know, I just feel like they reflect back to you. And it's true, like when we get stressed out about something, the kids are usually in a bad mood. And it just seems like it kind of snowballs. And so it's like if we can help like have a more positive attitude, then that is reflected back on us.
To be honest, I think we should just bring them to meetings.
I
Makes
think so.
meetings much better.
Yeah.
I'd have her in here with me. She would just watch all of you.
Great contributors.
I feel like during COVID, we've gotten so much more used to just like families and stuff being present, which,
Yeah.
by the way, several people hanging out with us, Raja on YouTube, Diamond Boy, Joshua on Twitch. Diamond said have one person present both meetings. I think that makes total sense. Like completely out of context, like a slide roulette type thing. I think that would be amazing. I've always wanted to do that at what do they call it? The after conference thing?
That pub
conf. Yeah. I've never done one of those. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
It's like
So
they will make decks and then say like you would present my deck and you'd have to talk about it. Or like the guy that runs it would take my deck and like mix around a whole bunch of slides and change things. And then I've got to give a revised presentation. So it's all very much like, what is it called? Improv.
Yep.
I really like that.
Super cool.
If you think about like if you have like a meeting that's longer than a child can like keep their attention, it's probably too long anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
And if you have what's the Elon thing about pizza? If you have more people than can fit a pizza, you got too many people or something, or that can eat a pizza. I don't know whatever it is.
Meetings has a bad rap for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on the meeting.
Is this a meeting?
The people.
Yeah, is this a meeting? Where's my kid? When she start crying.
I had several more people join us, by the way. Robbie, hello, doing good. Ian says good babies are the best. I can only imagine. Eric, Ian, let them chair the meetings. I think that's a good idea. Michael, hello. Aaron says my fur child loves Zoom. Obviously, that's a given. Richard, Diamond, everyone, hello. We could probably kick it off in a minute. Topic here, as people, I always read the topic as if people can't see it in the stream. In case you don't see like the title, it's developing with content should be easy, which we've got 2 of our favorite employees at Sanity. Not a like headless CMS is not the main tagline, right? Like a content management system. What's the appropriate tagline?
So if you ask us, like, what is your messaging? It's a composable content platform.
Easy.
All right.
Yes.
It's composable and it's a content platform. Yeah.
Love
there
it.
we go.
Perfect. Ramiro says this is a cool group of people. Which Tab, do you remember Ramiro from Alcero? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's now at Supabase, and I got to do I did a stream when they had, I think it was like their launch week 3 or launch week something. They had a big launch week, and I did a stream with them, and then incorporated Supabase into the Learn Build Teach Discord bot, which was a ton of fun. So I still like work on that every day, or not every day, but like every week basically.
There's Eli, another
compressed
alum.
We've got a pretty big alum now. Yeah. Tiana says Sanity is one of my go-tos. Well, if people have questions, comments, make sure to leave them in the chat. I will bring up questions for Knut and Kap to address and talk about, and then I'll call out like fun comments as well too. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. I don't know if y'all know this, but we have the intro music we play live, which is cool. I don't know if you've heard it before. It's
I'll try and stay away from the drums, but yeah.
I know, yeah. All right, well, I'll go ahead and kick us off if y'all are ready. Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web development and design with a little bit of zest. In this episode, we're going to talk about why and how developing content should be easy.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compressed.
Well, what's up, everyone? My name is James Q. Quick, and I am a full-time technical content creator.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton, and I'm the Director of Design at Zeal.
And we are joined today by two of our favorite friends at Sanity. I did a kind of an SEO search, Amy, earlier, accidentally. It's a weird story, but it showed like the early episode that we did on the podcast about the tech behind the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been using Sanity. You've used it personal projects. I've used it personal projects. We've used it for the actual podcast and all the content basically that we have for it. So this is a pretty exciting episode. So welcome to the stream, Knut and Kap. Do you want to both kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background? And usually we try to avoid the vagueness of addressing two people. So Kap, if you want to start first.
I was just about to be like, who should go first?
I know. Yeah. I try to help out there when I can.
Thanks, James. So I'm Kap. I live in Las Vegas. I work at Sanity as a developer marketing manager, and I like creating video content. So you should see a lot of my video content with Sanity floating around the internet. And yeah, I really like video content.
Love it.
And she's pretty great at it. Yeah.
She is.
Yeah, Knut. So Knut, also developer marketing manager at Sanity. Been here for like 5 years now. That's kind of like a lifetime in startup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, did like consulting web development before that.
Love it. And it feels like forever ago, which this would have been maybe 5 years ago. I can't like somewhere around that time where I was looking for headless CMS, and I posted on Twitter. I was like, I feel like headless CMSs are a great idea, but I feel like there's this gap of like you have a free tier, which may or may not be like small or may not be a good enough size for the things that people are working on. And then there's this jump to 100, 200, however many dollars a month. And I got lots of comments, but more specifically, I got responses from a few different people at Sanity, not pushing the product, not like trying to be forceful, just saying like, hey, here's an idea of like our pricing to give you maybe a perspective that you haven't looked at. And a couple of things that stood out to me was like the full control you have as a developer to write code to influence the dashboard. And then specifically on pricing, it was like, hey, we have these different tiers, but you can also like pay per specific things that you may need to increase. So you're not necessarily making the jump from $0 to $1,000 a month immediately. And I really appreciated all those comments, like and I'm a fan of like several headless CMSs or content. What was the phrase you said earlier? Content.
Call them CMSs. It's fine.
Yes.
Yeah,
Anyway, so I decided to try out Sanity. I think I did one stream first, and Knut and someone else was in the stream, like answering questions. And in my head, I was like, these people really know a lot about Sanity. Like, who are these people? And talked to Knut and had him on my stream, I think for like part 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 of a series of like migrating to use Sanity for my website. So I've always appreciated that. Kap and I worked at Auth0 before she went to Sanity. So again, super exciting. Lots of personal connections for me Do either one of you, I will leave this open-ended so you can choose, want to give like the intro high level, a little bit more detail and background on what Sanity is?
I think you have it pretty fresh in mind, Kap, right?
Yeah, I'm creating a lot of new content right now. So, where to begin? So, Sanity, for someone who hasn't used it, so a lot of us are developers here, but it is very like developer focused. So you have to be a developer to kind of like get it up and running. It is pretty quick to get up and running. Like we used to have the old version, and then in December of last year, we just launched Sanity V3, which is a new version of the studio, new command. So it kind of like goes with what we're used to. So Sanity run dev or npm create Sanity, like things that we're kind of used to in the developer world, whereas before it was like Sanity start. So a lot of things have changed, and you build your studio with using schemas, and your studio is, I like to call it the window into your data, and all the data lives in what we call the content lake. And the content lake it has all of your data in JSON form, and then you talk to that content lake from the studio, which is your window, into that using Grok or GraphQL. And so you query for that content, it brings it back to the studio, you manipulate it, and it sends it back to the content lake. And then your front end is connected to that content lake to grab that data, send it back, all that updating. So we created Grok at Sanity, but GraphQL can also be used. So, and then the studio is really like human readable. So once you build it, then your content creators, it just kind of makes sense. Like you go in there and you're like, oh, it says title. This is where I'm going to put my title for my blog post, or this says URL. And so it kind of just kind of like makes it really easy for the non-developer side of things.
So the two things that stand out to me, one is like the separate, I guess maybe it's one thing, but it's the separate studio, which is like you own the code. So you actually get a React project and you can run it locally. You can do stuff there. You can deploy it on your own. You can also use like the cloud hosted on Sanity Studio. So you can kind of do either and or both. So that again is a very developer friendly thing. And the second thing I think that I was going to call out was Grok. And can you explain? I don't know what Grok actually stands for. So do you want to explain like what it stands for and then a little bit more details about what that is?
I can maybe do that.
Like Knut do that, yeah.
Do you want to? Should I? Two people, so hard.
So this is, I need to use names still. See, I don't even follow my own advice.
We can do it kind of like at the same time. Like no, I haven't practiced
2,
that.
1.
Yeah. No, like let's start with Grok. Grok, I think it's short for Graph Relational Object Queries, no less.
Impressive.
Like the way we kind of tend to introduce it, like, okay, think about GraphQL and what GraphQL did. It kind of like offered this alternative to RESTful APIs, where you can like ask for a list and you get the list you ask for, and that's it. And if you want to change it, you have to kind of like talk to the developer or change how that API works. GraphQL kind of like gives you this a la carte, I want those fields and blah, blah, blah. Grok is more like SQL. Like it's a way to query a document store, which is the content lake. It's like a collection of JSON documents, right? So it gives you a way to kind of query that very flexibly and much more finer detail than GraphQL will let you out of the box. Kind of. So our GraphQL API is actually powered by Grok under the hood. So that gives you kind of like the idea. Hopefully, it's super cool and not that hard to learn, I think. Hopefully. Yeah. What was the other question?
Just the studio being like a separate code project.
Yeah,
that you actually own, and you can deploy somewhere if you want to.
Yeah, this is where we kind of like are different still, I think, from a lot of the CMS offerings. So, like, it's reasonable to say like this looks like a headless CMS, but what like most headless CMSs, how they work is like you have this hosted dashboard editor thingy, right? You log into it and then you get the APIs. So with Sanity is a bit different, but you have like this hosted content lake data store thing. Don't need to think about installing it or scaling it. Like everything is out of the box. And then to it we have like this client called the Sanity Studio, which is this open source thing, like React Spa thing that you can configure and customize as you want. So it's kind of like decoupled from the backend, which means that all the APIs that the studio has, you can use too for other things. It's just another client kind of. We're still kind of different in that regard.
That was one of the things that got me really excited about Sanity from the beginning, was the ability to customize it, because as a designer, I want control over things. And so the fact that I can create custom React components for various fields is amazing. And just the level of control that you enable developers to have.
Yeah, and this is like the number one feedback we get from our customers. Like, we can actually change this to how we work and how we think about things, and that's super powerful. So we have really tried. Component. Yeah, exactly. And like it's React components, but like we have spent a lot of time thinking about how those customization APIs should work, like and how easy it should be for you to kind of like reuse the components in the studio already and kind of like recompose them and kind of like make them yours. So it's kind of like a CMS framework in a way.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, that's my second favorite feature. If I can just go on about favorite features, is the API and the fact that I can create these scripts to, say, scrape a website and take all that data and import that into Sanity through a script, because the API is so easy to work with.
I remember, like, Kap and I was at like this Jamstack conference last year, and we saw like amazing talk about someone who did that stuff. I'm not sure if you've seen it, Amy.
About.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is Amy's talk we're talking about.
Of course.
Yeah. So we can include a link to the talk in the show notes, but what we're referring to specifically and related to the Compressed FM website is we are pinging Simplecast, which is where we're hosting the Compressed FM podcast. We're grabbing all those analytics, and then we're posting that back into Sanity so that we can serve that information up. And so the API just makes it really easy to make all that happen. It's just a cron job that runs every day.
And there's one like big implementation similar to that we haven't gotten to yet, which is like we take submissions for the podcast. Like all the information that we have on YouTube was originally submitted through Calendly. So the Calendly request includes like, what do you want to talk about? Who are the people? Blah, blah, blah. And so we haven't tied this in automatically, but taking that data to call a webhook, which I think we decided you have to have a paid subscription to Calendly to like get the webhook data, or maybe not. I can't remember.
Yep.
But in theory, we just have an endpoint that takes the data from Calendly, upload that directly to Sanity, and now the stuff is there, because now we're having to do like a manual copy over to Sanity. But we do automatically generated cover images for the podcast, and that is like basically Sanity has a webhook that will call our application, tell us that something's changed, and then the code will check, hey, do we have this image? Do we have this one? Do we have this one? And if not, we'll generate that with Cloudinary, which is really cool. I get like really excited about it. And then upload that image back to
wrote that part.
Sanity. Yes, I did. But I think that's really the power of having like a nice UI to manage data, but then also the flexibility and extensibility to like tap into the different hooks and things that you want to be able to add automations to your workflow.
The funny thing is, like, when you ask me like what you call Sanity, it's like, it's not a headless CMS, right? And I said like, oh, it's a composable content platform. What you just described is exactly what that means. Like you have all of these services, and then you can like connect them together and make it kind of like make something valuable, which is this podcast operation thing. I'm pretty impressed by what you have kind of like put together. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Have you all upgraded to V3?
I have not updated local. Yeah, I know.
Which is a great like segment, because I feel like I've been a little bit out of touch with Sanity. So I remember like I was really heavy into it for a while. I paid a lot of attention, especially Kap, like after you got there, because I was watching your content, and it's been a little while. So do you want to give an update on like some of the things with V3, and maybe some of the things that if people haven't seen Sanity in a year or so, like what are some of the big features and things they should keep an eye out for, maybe go check out?
My favorite thing about V3, and I can't tell enough people about this, but you can now embed your studio into your app. So say your front end is built with Next, you can embed the entire studio. So now it's compressed.fm/admin is now where your studio lives, or /studio, whatever you want to call the path. But it is now embeddable. So
That's awesome.
What?
You need
Okay,
you have an applause sound effect, right?
I was just thinking about that. I haven't. I don't know. Let's see. Is that coming through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
That's amazing.
But that was
It is.
kind of like a polite clap for what that
Okay.
feature is.
And then I have a fail sound, so I don't know.
Isn't supposed to be like
That's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. The crowd
the-
goes
Oh,
wild.
I got it.
Yeah, and
got
the
it.
air horn. Yeah, the air horn. There you go.
There we
Right,
go.
There you go.
That's really great because that was like, I think that was one of a small inconvenience, but like a little bit of an
Mhm.
inconvenience because you have to have like 2 projects that you manage, or you'd have to have, which Amy set up for us, like a embedded in one project. So we had a separate Next.js folder inside of the root GitHub project, which also included a folder for Sanity Studio.
Mhm.
So how does that integration work? Like in Next.js, you have API or a page route or an API endpoint that you define, and then is there just like a Sanity component that you just say, here's the content for this page, is this Sanity component?
Yeah. So it's called, correct me if I'm wrong, Next. No. Next Sanity.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm pregnant, so I have pregnancy brain a little bit. Next
Congratulations,
Sanity.
by the way. I haven't seen you like on
Thanks.
video since.
This is
yeah.
like my last event, so I should be
What?
having another baby
So
any day now.
Wow, you look fantastic.
Like actually any day. I know. Any day for real?
Well, my other baby was born 6 weeks early, so if
Oh, that's what you're looking for.
If
if
that's any
this one
indicator.
comes also at the same time, he's coming on Wednesday.
Oh.
So
Wow.
Yay!
we'll see
exciting.
what
Excited for y'all.
happens. Thanks. But yeah, so Next Sanity is the library, and then the function is called Next Sanity. I can't remember the naming now, but yeah,
It's fine.
it's a React function, and you just call it, and then you set up your path, and in your config, you define that path, and then you go tell Next, hey, this is a path that you're going to look at, and your studio is going to live here, and when you go there, and then so like if you run it locally, like say you run your Next app, and I'm sticking in Next. So, but this can happen in any like front end framework, but I've been doing Next a lot. So when you run npm run dev in your Next application, it will run just both of them right away because it's embedded. And then once you deploy just that one repo, then they still live under that same URL. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I guess I
convenient.
can provide a bit of boring backstory. I don't know. Maybe it's not boring.
Yes, please.
Give us all the boring details.
So like so the reason like we had this whole customizable like content environment thing, and the reason it was customizable was because you could kind of like switch out essentially components or like npm packages, and for that to work we had to like build our own kind of like dependency interjection system. And that sounds as terrifying as it is. It's really hard, and we did it with Webpack, which is also like terrifying. And we did that back in like 2017. So we were essentially stuck on Webpack 3 or something, which is like mega old. So we had to kind of like get out of that situation. And what Kap was getting at is like when we did this huge refactor of the whole studio app, like why not make it kind of like idiomatic React and ESM? Like you don't actually need to bundle or compile the studio anymore. It's just like you can kind of like actually take the console in your web browser and embed the studio right into like your browser without anything. And that allows us to kind of like embed the studio in kind of like anywhere. And then we have made like a bit of niceties to kind of like make it easy with Next in this Next Sanity package, and you get like loading state and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Cool.
And a quick note on V3, if you're using Sanity currently and you haven't upgraded, which Amy and James, you are, you don't have to do
call outs or anything.
You don't have to do a content freeze because it's just updating the studio, not like the content lake. So you can still like have your stuff going.
Yeah.
and you just do the upgrade. Knut has a really awesome live stream that is now in record land of upgrading to a V3 studio.
Awesome.
So we'll have
We
to
should
get that
definitely
link.
check that out. We should put a ticket or something like to go back and
We
actually.
have so many
And
tickets.
I know.
Do you have tickets? like Jira or something? Or
Well,
Oh, well, it's,
no, we're
it's
not
on
that cool.
GitHub. Just
Yeah,
the issues.
like-
Tons of
Okay, yeah.
issues. There's
Yeah.
like
Whew.
50 issues. Yeah.
Yeah, but especially embedding that like in the repo as a Next.js, like on a
Mhm.
Next.js
Well,
route
and
or
it's
whatever.
running Next.js.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yep.
also need to upgrade Next.js.
We do, and we still never did a full conversion to TypeScript, which is actually a question that I had. So
Ooh.
one of the benefits I would think of like having those. Actually, I kind of wonder what that looks. So let me back up a little bit. When
Mhm.
you have the studio embedded like on a Next.js route, for example, do you still have the same like schema files and things inside of that same repository? Is that right?
Yes. So you can have your config and you can like kind of, if you want to just do like a quick demo and like watch it, you can do all your schemas within your config. But we recommend, of course, because it's going to grow,
Mhm.
taking that and just creating the schemas folder and in there
Okay.
doing your projects, your blog posts, all your different schema types there.
Cool.
But yeah, it can all live in that same repo.
Yeah, and we kept the schema API, like nothing really changed there. So like if that's your only thing, like it should be relatively easy to upgrade. It's just kind of like switching out config.
Mhm.
And when you get into like custom input components and parts and all of that stuff, then you have to do a bit of work. But yeah, you were asking about TypeScript.
Well, so one of the things that I'm like paying more and more attention to, and I genuinely don't know the answer, is like as you define these data types for whether it's in a GUI for a database or it's like in the schema file for Sanity, how do you then translate that and leverage it in TypeScript? Because the schema that you define it's a type, like it gives you like property and type of property, like name, type of property and other things, but that's not exactly what would be like a TypeScript interface or type. So is there like a natural migration or like export to get the actual like TypeScript types or interfaces?
That's what I call a great question. And I think it's like it's something like a lot of people are thinking about now. And you have like projects like Prisma where it's kind of like more neatly integrated in a way. But I think what makes that hard is like the intended types or kind of like the data structures you're putting in your backend isn't always the things you are wanting to have in your front end. Sometimes you want to transform that and so on. And especially with something like Grok, where it's very easy to transform it, you get this kind of like, there's not always this one-to-one relationship. So there are projects that kind of like can take a Sanity content model or schema and kind of translate that to TypeScript types. Which can work fairly well. And then you have other interesting projects that uses something called Zod. Are you familiar? Have you discussed Zod on this? Yeah.
I just added Zod in my Astro site. So it can define like basically types for collections of data with embedded markdown. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's this agency called Formidable, and I have a project called GrokD or Grokd. which kind of like it wraps around Zod, but it's kind of like built to be able to take Grok queries and Zodify them, and also then TypeScriptify them. So if you're like into that stuff,
right here,
check
out.
Man,
like, James, you have so much work to do.
I know. Well, it like we talk about this a lot just in the ecosystem is how quickly things move, which is very intimidating. Like it's exciting because there's always new features that are exciting, but taking the time to learn about them and implement them across the board for anything is also difficult. Which one of my favorite things now is like if I'm interested in something, like learning something hands-on, is just to like bring a person from that team on and just like work with me, which is a little bit like not everyone has that ability, but like I know enough people and enjoy streaming and they enjoy streaming that I can usually kind of like have a hack of just like this one-on-one assistance through migrations to something or whatever it is, which is very helpful for me.
Yeah, but like if one wanted to kind of like get up with the new tech, like with Tailwind and TypeScript and kind of like the new Next and Sanity, like Kap, like where would you go to learn all of that stuff?
I'm so excited for this. Okay. So I've been working on, it is exactly 2 hours and 5 minutes, tutorial on Next 13, which Next 13 is changing so much right now. And so like to keep up with what has been changing over there has been an adventure in itself. But then, so the whole project, it's like a personal website that you build with me. And it's built with Next 13, as updated as I could have made it. So by the time it's launched, it may be just a little out of date. I really hope not. But I recorded it last week, so it's pretty up to date. And then you use Sanity v3, which I just love Sanity v3. And then you use TypeScript and you use Tailwind. So that is being launched very soon.
And where?
Know. Can I say?
Can you say it?
I don't know.
Surely, is there like an early sign up thing for notifications or something?
I guess like if people want to know, they have to follow Kap on Twitter or something.
Yeah, just find me on Twitter because I don't know how much I can say right now.
Might be a sizable YouTube channel somewhere.
Yeah, it's not Sanity's YouTube
channel. No,
but
I have guesses that I will save.
We can nor confirm or deny anything.
I won't put you on the spot and say what my guess is, but I feel like I have a good guess.
Just type in the private chat.
Yeah, but then Amy, you have to take the responsibility of keeping a straight face, and I don't know if we trust that.
Well, I can just do this.
But yeah,
for people who are listening to the podcast, Amy just did a very shocked face, very dramatic shocked face.
I think they heard my gasp, but
yeah.
You can just imagine the face that went along with the gasp.
Yeah.
That's super exciting. Next.js, like new version has intimidated me. So actually this afternoon I'm streaming with B Holmes from Astro, where he decided he thinks it's like worthwhile to teach people like what React server components are. And I was like, hey, if you need someone to be a genuine student and ask you genuine naive questions, because I haven't spent time trying to understand them, and because of that I don't understand them, I would love to be that person. So I'm actually hopefully going to learn more about that this afternoon. But it is interesting, like across the board with frameworks, how they kind of seem to kind of incorporate new features almost kind of together, like the same transitions into different methodologies, with the newest methodology basically going back to the server as much as we can, like doing a lot of stuff on the server and less and less on the client. So anyway, I will be signed up for all 2 hours and 5 minutes of this upcoming course.
Is it going to be on a whiteboard?
Yes.
So yours or the one this afternoon?
No, the Ben's.
It will. I imagine it will be. I don't have 100% confirmation, but I imagine it will. Yeah. So I will keep a straight face, but I will confirm that my guess about where this content will be was correct for what it's worth.
Okay.
And I am very excited. Congratulations.
Thanks. Me too.
Reaction video from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the people who are in chat, just follow me on Twitter. Follow Sanity on Twitter. We'll be tweeting all about it very soon.
It'd also be fun if people would just post their guesses.
Everyone just post your guess. That's fun.
Yeah.
And by the time this is out on podcast, it may already be launched.
Yes.
Could be soon, right? So but if you have guesses and you listen to the podcast and want to tag us on Twitter or tag Kap on Twitter, please do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Are there any other, like, so we started talking about V3 and talked about the embeddability, I'm going to make up a word, of like the studio in your Next.js project. Are there any other features that people should know about?
Dark mode.
Mic drop. Hold on, let me get my dark mode. Oh, we'll go back to there. Okay, fine.
Yeah, that's bigger than embeddability. Let's be real. Dark mode.
For developers, absolutely. Was that something? Was there like feedback for that? Like, it's the stereotype that like developers are always looking for dark mode, and there's all kinds of like memes and stuff. Was that actually genuine feedback enough to the point where it was like, okay, we need to make this for them?
I don't know if there was like a huge need, maybe Knut, you know, but it's like, I mean, every time we look at it, we're just getting blinded. So maybe it was for us.
Yeah, but it comes on the back of like a whole new theme API. Like we haven't like there's a new theme API, so in theory you can kind of like give the studio any look and feel and colors and so on, and also have it work for dark mode, because now the studio use something called Sanity UI, which is kind of like a component library. Everything
Which is
is like
awesome.
Sanity UI. Yeah, it
Which
is pretty
awesome,
neat.
by the way.
And you can use that for your customizations as well. Yeah, so on the back of the theme API, there's like full support for dark mode and so on. There's a new Ken is in the chat. Hi Ken.
Yeah.
Our new colleague.
He's got
Yeah,
a new feature for you to shout
there's
out.
a new global search, which is also pretty excellent. You can kind of like filter and facet and all of those nice things. So you can actually find your content in the studio, which is pretty handy.
So does that mean if I have multiple different types of content, so I have blog posts and I have speaking engagements and I have whatever things, I can search and it'll search globally across all the different content types and show me the relevant stuff?
Yeah, and you can kind of filter by type or by any field actually, and you can also filter like give me all the documents that refer to this document that I searched for. Stuff.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, so like all of those things. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
I got a notification earlier when I was in the studio that I was updating one record that is referenced by other records, just like kind of an FYI thing. So that would be those relationships are now searchable, is what you're saying. Like you can search based on those relationships.
Exactly.
Amazing. Really cool. This is a loaded question that the answer may just be an easy no. Like AI is something that I see more and more, like across the board products are like, we've added this AI feature, we've done this thing, and like we've been having lots of conversations in a Discord chat Kap with Chris and Otto and a product that they created to transcribe and do other amazing things with like video to blog posts. Are there, and this may be a secret or the answer maybe no, are there any like AI features or ideas in the backlog?
What is this AI thing you're talking about, James? I've never heard about it.
What does it stand for? What?
Artificial intelligence. It's the new Web3 of programming.
Oh, we just have like visual intelligence, so
just regular intelligence.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
Adobe Illustrator extension. Not AI.
Oh, yeah, that's
Did it really?
Yeah.
Like
For years.
I don't think we can kind of like talk you about details, but obviously we're looking into this whole AI thing and what it can do for us.
I'll take that.
You kind of have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to at this point. Like, see if it works. It may not work for someone, but yeah.
It's just a React component, right? Like you could add that into your
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have already seen the community launch like ChatGPT integrations and
all over
like,
the place.
Yeah, and stable diffusion and all of those things. So I think if there's no plugin quite yet, that will certainly come up pretty soon. Yeah.
That's another great thing to shout out is you guys have a fantastic community of additional plugins and things like that other people have created and shared.
Yeah. So we have the Slack community, but we also have kind of what you're talking about, Amy, the Sanity exchange. And so developers will go and share like their projects or like code snippets, different, like maybe they wrote up an entire blog post about how they built something. But yeah, the Sanity exchange is like awesome if you're trying to learn about Sanity, because there's just so much content there that's just community and company created. I mean, we post there too. So
yeah, and like also like making plugins, it's much more easier now because again, there's no custom like build tooling. So plugins are it's kind of like a function called define plugin, and you can give it kind of like your configuration, and it's the same APIs that you use for setting up the studio. And now there's also, this is pretty cool. It's a bit involved, but like all like the input fields and all of these kind of custom components thing, they have something called composability. So you can kind of like get kind of like the out of the box stuff, and then you can kind of interject your stuff in between it. So you can kind of like have multiple plugins that does things to the same fields and so on. It's I almost have like a lot of red yarn behind me to show you kind of like how this works, but it's pretty cool. And we have made kind of like something called plugin kit that kind of can bootstrap a plugin and also help you publish it on npm, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. So it kind of takes care of all of the scaffolding and stuff. So yeah, create plugins. It's pretty awesome.
I love it. I've always felt like Sanity has a great, like, strong community, and I think it's kind of twofold. Like, the community is active, but then also on your end, I think you've historically done a good job of celebrating that, like having live streams to pull on people that have built stuff with Sanity, or just sharing the stuff that other people have built. So I think, again, it's like twofold. Like, people are into it because of the product, and then also supporting the people and celebrating the people that are creating stuff. For people that like may not have the concept of what a plugin may look like in Sanity, do you have like a couple of examples of popular plugins from the community? Put you on the spot a little bit.
No, it's fine. I got like a huge brain freeze, but like there are like plugins like custom asset components. So like for Cloudinary and stuff.
Is this built in? I can't remember. Unsplash.
Yes,
because it's built in.
Ours, but
but I loved it because for my header images, I wanted to pull Unsplash, and so instead of having to go to Unsplash, download the image, then upload it to Sanity, there's a plugin that will do all that direct. There's also one for Mux that's really great too. If you want to use video, that you can just reference their APIs and things like that and tie everything together.
And like for launch of Studio V3, we went and we helped out upgrading a lot of the most popular, like 25 of the most popular plugins, so that they were compatible when we launched and so on. Nice. So yeah, and in that plugin kit, we also have tooling to help you migrate, and it shouts at you if there's a V2 isn't lingering somewhere. So yeah.
I have this. I've only done one of these, but I have this idea for like a TikTok series, like if VS Code could talk type thing. And this, like when we say like VS Code is yelling at us, or like my editor is yelling at us, like imagine like me typing and like the audio from me in the background, like, no, that's wrong. No, I don't know. It's funny in my head if that like
that's my internal voice.
Yeah.
Like every time I enter, it's like
If you could just record your internal voice, send it to me, and I will put it on a TikTok video, and we'll be TikTok
careful
famous.
what you wish for.
Well, and I'll one up that and say James will add it to his soundboard.
Yes.
for future episodes.
Absolutely. We need to. I always say, like, when we talk about it, we should embrace the soundboard more, and I always forget. So one day,
blessing and a curse.
I know. It's very easy to overuse, I think. Are there any? So thinking about. Like, we talked a lot about Sanity specifically, which is obviously great and relevant for the reason we're here. Are there any like outside technologies, or like it could be Next.js 13, or like any like technologies, tools, frameworks, anything like outside of specifically Sanity that you've been excited about in addition to AI, obviously?
I've just been in Next 13 land for a long time. So I get really excited about so Next 13 has this new like folder structure thing. So my whole project, my whole tutorial is in the experimental app folder. Yes. So it's really fun. I really like it. It's hard. It was tough to like wrap my head around it and like what was going on. But something that I really like is the organization of it, because I like to organize my code, and sometimes it can get all over the place, but this allows for folders that have just parentheses around the naming that aren't routes, but it's just purely for organization. And so when I discovered that, I was like, oh, this is like really fun, because in my mind, I don't need a route for this, but I want to organize all the studio routes into a studio folder without having it be mywebsite.com/studio/admin. Like, so they've allowed for that like pretty folder file structure.
And the components for that page can live right alongside that file too, right? So how do you feel about that? Because I know that's been a little spicy topic for some people.
I mean, I don't mind it. I think
I love it.
I think it's good. I think everything that they're doing. At first, I was not on board. At first, I was like, "This is too hard for people. This is too hard." Like, and I'm trying to teach in my tutorial beginner devs, you know, how to use this thing that I can't even wrap my head around. And I'm like, it's just kind of frustrating. But once you do, and if you can like just be a little patient with yourself and just like, no, it's gonna come and you're gonna understand it, then it's like there's no other way to do it. So
well, I just love having all the components in a place, in a single place, where you're talking about organization versus having to go into multiple directories throughout your project to find exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I think once people start using it, you're like, oh, this makes sense. This clicks why people like it.
Yeah.
I feel like I have my like inner Vercel Davrel voice. They're like, you can also just start with pages, like the good old method, and then you can kind of like graduate to the app folder when you need to.
Yes.
Like,
well, and one of the nice things about the build feature is it will tell you if you have routes that conflict because they're in the pages folder and they're in the app folder. So I just think it was brilliant too how they set that up that transition where if you are trying to migrate a project, like our compressed FM site is built on the old version of Next and we are using a pages directory. If we want to move over to the app, we can have both of those systems coexist within the same project, which is just brilliant.
And I think like there's a lot of discourse around React and Astro and Quick and all of these, like what is more performant and so on. But I think like what we tend to forget is how much work, for example, like Vercel have done to make Next.js pretty backward compatible. Like you can kind of use the same pattern you used 5 years ago because Next was a thing 5 years ago. So it's also amazing how they have like taken care of about like the broader developer experience. And kind of like not disrupt it too much and let people lean into the new stuff while they take feedback and so on. So I'm pretty impressed by their work. And we can kind of like quibble about performance and so on elsewhere, but like let that go unnoticed. It's a pretty good feat. So yeah, shout out to Vercel, I guess.
Never-ending performance conversations. Real quick check-in. I think the original calendar invite was like specifically for an hour. Do y'all have a few minutes to go over, or do we need to? You good? Cool. So we had a like on the form for coming on the show. There's a soapbox title category of like something you'd like to. There's something that you're passionate about or to rant about. And so the answer there was the getting into tech journey, making content that makes sense for beginner developers. And then I love the ending of this, also Markdown. I'm not sure which one of you submitted that, but any thoughts from either one of you of getting into the tech journey? Is it you?
It's joint.
Okay.
I'm like that first part. Knut's the and
also Markdown.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just really passionate and like I just empathize a lot with the beginner devs. And the more you get into code, the more you forget what it was like to be that beginner level. And I remind myself all the time how hard the terminal was when I first started. Because I'm like, that seems so easy to me now. Like, oh, I just open up my terminal and I start writing commands. And so, or like even GitHub, I didn't understand what that was. I'm like, so we just put our folders here and our files here and are we sharing it? Like, is it like a Facebook for code? So like, there's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. That's what someone described it to me as, like a Facebook for code. I'm like, okay. But I don't know. I try and keep a little bit of myself back at the beginning stage so I can relate. But I don't know. I just really want the beginners to feel like they can follow along to things that I'm creating, or that they're not forgotten in all this content that we're putting out there. So yeah, that's like my big thing is the developer or the beginner developer.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes for myself, which I think I made up myself, but it's not super unique. And it's very similar to what you said, is as someone that just learned something, you're kind of the best person to teach it because you remember what it's like to learn / struggle / not understand whatever that concept is. And you remember what it's like to like hit that aha moment or like whatever it was that helped push you over the edge. And I've said this a lot. Like I have a computer science degree and I did not get out of a computer science degree what I should have, like at all. And so there were concepts that I was quote unquote taught and should have understood in college that I literally didn't understand for like 4 or 5 years until I actually did software development on a regular basis, like daily at FedEx. So for beginner developers, like if things aren't making sense, that's part of it. Like that's completely natural. That's part of the journey.
And side note to that is it's not just for someone who's just getting into tech. It may be for someone who's getting into a product for the first time. So my husband actually had used Sanity before I even started at Sanity, and I've been there now almost 3 years. And
it's been that long. Yeah,
I know. And he hasn't used it. And then I've been trying to convince him, hey, like use it. And it kept confusing him. And he's like, well, I don't get why I need to do this and that. And he's a 15, 20-year software developer. Like he knows what he's doing. But there were just concepts or like things like within the studio, like how to delete a blog post that you wrote. Like, do I need to just delete each field? And I'm like, oh no, it's hidden here. And so I saw that beginner mindset when, so he finally used it. I finally got him on board.
He's using that for his cousin's like movie search.
Yeah, SeanScore.com. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But it took some time. He was using Airtable. He's like, no, Sanity's, I don't want to spend too much time trying to learn this thing. And I'm like, it's not that bad. But then I was reminded that this is a new product to someone who is a senior developer and knows his stuff. So it's like, even if they've been coding for so many years, it's okay that like we take it back just a step and remember those like little beginner like tips and tricks for a specific product that you need to be reminded of or taught. Yeah. So now he's a Sanity fan. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, so
that works out well for your household.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned earlier the idea of like, I see a bunch of technologies and stuff that I'm excited about, but I have like this hack, like cheat code thing where I know lots of people that work at lots of different companies on Twitter, and I can just ask like, hey, can we live stream and I borrow you for an hour? And that's for the exact same reason. Like I've got a decent amount of experience as a developer, but onboarding a new tool, like sometimes it's just basic questions, answers that you just need somebody right there. So I 100% understand and relate to that. And there's also like, from a creating content perspective, a lot of people get really intimidated because they're like, I don't know what I could offer. I'm not an expert in this thing. First of all, very few of us are experts in anything. I am not an expert in anything. So most people, or a lot of people, like shy away from creating content or like giving a talk, for example. But the thing is, like, you don't have to be an expert at a thing. You don't have to know everything about a thing. You just have to know something that your audience doesn't know. So the point of that for me in my career was I started as an evangelist at Microsoft out of college, where I didn't have like real world software experience. Like I really didn't know very much, but the things I did know about modern technologies with Microsoft, people that have been writing code with Microsoft technologies for 15, 20 years, they just didn't know those things. So I was still able to provide value to people, even though I was far from an expert and much less experienced than the people that were in the room. So there's still opportunity to teach, opportunity to create content, even as a beginner or whatever stage in your career you're at, because there are people out there that will, if you define your audience correctly, that will benefit from that content. And also Markdown. Knut, go.
I think, to be fair, I think this soapbox is way more important than my quibbles with Markdown. But
I've been waiting for this one, so you better sell it.
I can't go for hours, so yeah, like hold me back now. But no, I guess a bit of background. So it actually ties into what Kap told about kind of like Chris discovering Sanity for his cousin's movie rating site. And you can actually watch the story on one of our meetups, or the recordings of our meetups. Kap has put on like these amazing meetups with our community, and there's a lot of great talks. The last one, Chris and Sean told the story. The gist was like Airtable didn't cut it as like a content creator tool. Like Airtable is amazing, but it wasn't kind of like inspiring to create content. And Chris wanted to fix that, and he happened to know someone at Sanity and gave it another try, and it worked. finally. But what he did was like having empathy for the content creator. And my quibble with Markdown is like it's fine for developers. Sometimes I like having been a Markdown user since early 2000s. Like not all developers love it. Like okay, it's fine.
Okay.
But if you are creating something that like people who aren't developers are supposed to be productive in, you probably shouldn't force them to write Markdown.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like my thing. But also on the other side of it, like we have for some reason tricked ourselves into believing that Markdown equals great developer experience. Like for anyone who has tried to kind of like integrate Markdown into like a framework, knows that I have to kind of like rip it apart and like put it into Unified, and like Unified is like amazing project, but it solves a very hard problem, which is taking like what's essentially HTML and like XML code and try to make sense of it. And it was never designed for that kind of. So this is where I kind of like could go for hours, but I won't. but yeah, it's like
Go for hours.
think twice before imposing Markdown on people who aren't developers are. I guess that's the gist of it.
Yeah. Well, that's like definitively one of the reasons that Sanity and so many other, again, just the broader category of headless CMS. That's why those have become so popular, for that exact same reason, is because we need ways for people that aren't writing Markdown on a regular basis or aren't developers to be able to contribute.
But headless CMS still uses Markdown for some reason.
Like they have a Markdown option.
Yeah, well, it starts to get better now, but like a lot of them actually had that as a primary way to kind of like create rich text content.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on like blog content and stuff, but yeah.
What is the, maybe last question as we wrap up? I'm blanking on the name now at all, but there's a specific like Sanity created name / structure for block content. Am I describing that accurately?
This is where our story started, James.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and
you were like,
I've told Amy
like...
this name over the course of like 3 years now, and I can't remember what it is.
It's portable text.
Portable text. Thank you.
So yeah, that's our open source specification for block content, and it kind of like it makes it possible to take block content and represent it in a JSON structure that you can also use in things that aren't a website or like going to end up in a browser. And that's the key. Like if you want to have your content work across the web and apps, then you probably don't want to put it into any kind of like HTML Markdown thing, because that's a pain to integrate in a like native app. So then you want something like portable text that's kind of like agnostic to the technology. So yeah, check it out.
Cool. Love it. Is there, before we move into the final section, picks and plugs, any like last thoughts on Sanity or content or Markdown's terrible that you want to add?
Well, I took account of all the amount of Sanity projects that I've amassed since I started in 2018. It's coming on to 311.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me you're a developer without telling me.
I have never paid anything for Sanity, which is easy for me to say since I work here. But the story is that most of those projects are free. The free tier, because you can have as many free projects as you want. So like if you just want some JSON in the clouds, check it out. We're not like going to chase you and make you tear up unless you wanted like grown up features like SSO and so on. So yeah. That was a plug, I guess. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Gab, do you have any last minute things that you want to
add? Sanity specific. There is a lot changing in the web dev world, and Sanity is also a part of that change. We just upgraded to V3 in December. The support for V2 is going to go away in December of this year, so you have to do that upgrade. But yeah, keep an eye on my Twitter and Sanity's Twitter for a really like thorough next and Sanity video coming soon, because there is a lot going on and there is like a lot of upgrades. And so if you're like confused on any of all this, there is a true source coming very soon. So yeah,
sweet. Follow here for more. And we left a couple of teasers. So people that are listening, we left teasers for future AI features, maybe. / keep an eye out for, and then Kap's course on some platform somewhere that will be amazing. So make sure to stick around. For Sanity, I'm sure Sanity, like you said, we'll tweet about it, and then Cap specifically on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to move into picks and plugs?
Yeah.
Anybody want to go first? This is where I should point at people.
Me? Okay.
You go first.
I have a tech one and I have a media one. Let's start with it. So last week I finally tried out something called Raycast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So old timers like me got a Mac in the early 2000s and we downloaded something called Quicksilver, which was amazing.
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
And it is kind of this command line quick launcher thing, right? And then I went over to something called Alfred. And then I keep seeing this Raycast hype, and I was like, okay, let's try this out. So I downloaded it, and what's cool with Raycast is like it's customizable. You can make extensions, and the way you make extensions is with React and JavaScript, and I kind of know that. So I spent 2 days, and I have like a pretty decent proof of concept first version of Sanity Raycast extension that's you can like interact with
That's
projects
cool.
and stuff. So yeah, so I was like, oh, this is a great developer experience as well. So that's kind of like the one tech one.
Yeah.
And shifting completely direction, like there's this show on HBO called The Last of Us. You may have heard about it. Not the show, but the official podcast to the show.
Oh,
with the showrunners and the original voice by Joel in the game. Amazing podcast if you want to have the kind of like the backstory of each episode. So check that out. That's me. That's the plugs.
Did you like the show though, or just the podcast?
I like the show.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah, I like the show a lot. Did you finish it yesterday?
No, so no spoilers.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Did you see when what's his name died though? I've never seen the show, so I have no idea. I literally just made it up.
Don't listen to him.
Yeah.
There's a dragon at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was gonna say zombies, but I was like, wait, there are zombies.
Wait, so there's no dragon? Is that what we're saying?
What about the mermaids?
No.
There's got to be mermaids.
The aliens.
I think I was thinking about another show, like with thrones and games in it or something. Yeah.
Really quickly, we've talked about Raycast several times on here, and I use Raycast, although I don't have a definitive answer for why I like it more than something like Alfred. Amy's an Alfred power user, but I think also likes Raycast. But I haven't heard of people actually creating extensions or plugins with React and JavaScript for Raycast. So that's super exciting. I'd love to see like a blog post overview or video overview or whatever sort of breakdown you want to do. I'd love to read or watch that.
All right.
Okay.
Cap, are you ready?
So my pick. I'm just doing pick right now, yeah?
Do both? Yeah, we usually do both. Which I don't know if Knut were those
did not
both
do a
picks?
plug.
I did like just a couple minutes ago. So can you not plug? Yes.
What was the plug?
Yes, it was Sanity, like Santiago. Go check it out. Yeah,
cool. Easy.
Okay, my pick and plug. My pick, I'll do a tech and a non-tech one. So my tech one, it's not really like developer, but it's been my saving grace for the past like couple years. But ScreenFlow is my favorite thing on this planet. It's where I do all my editing. But to add to that, I just tried Descript for the first time, and I love Descript. Like, I was against it. I was like, no, ScreenFlow is my one true source. Don't try and make me go anywhere else. And then I tried Descript, and I really like it. So I'm going to say ScreenFlow is amazing for editing content, like editing videos or screen recordings or video or audio recordings. And Descript is like that next level. So that's my like not web dev, but like tech-ish plug pick.
Are you using Descript for video recording and or editing?
Both, kind of. Okay. So the video that I'm talking about that's coming out was both ScreenFlow and Descript. I like did a combo of the two, and I just know ScreenFlow so well, so I'm just like, I can move quicker here. Yeah. And so that's why Descript, I'm like, oh, I'll try it out a little bit, and I fell in love immediately.
Nice.
I love it.
Amy's definitely a big fan. I just haven't. I haven't been able to move away from one feature that ScreenFlow offers that nothing else does. Is the ability to record webcam and screen at the same time and get them as 2 separate feeds. So like you can record multiple things with different programs. You could do like picture in picture type thing, but if you want them as 2 separate feeds that you can then edit together, so you can show like code full screen, then me full screen, then overlay. That's the only tool that I've found to do it easy. That's the only reason I haven't like really moved away from, or the biggest reason I haven't really moved away from ScreenFlow.
Yeah. Yeah, both are great. And then my non-technical one, I've been reading a lot this year. And I just read, and I know it's a really popular book, but I just read The Alchemist and I really liked it. I describe it as, because it's not what I expected. I kind of expected more about alchemy, kind of. And it's very much not like that. Like he meets an alchemist in the book, this kid that's on a journey, but it's very anime kind of. Like if you imagine you're watching an anime while you read this book, it's just kind of a fun like journey that this kid goes on to find his meaning, like his path. But yeah, The Alchemist I really enjoyed. That's my pick. And then my plug is, am I doing my plug? Is that?
Yep.
Okay. My plug is a new product that I know James has used, but it's called Video Tap, and you can find it at videotapit.com. So what it does is it takes a YouTube video, you put in your YouTube URL, and it will generate a blog post for it. So you can like become more SEO friendly. Right now it does videos that are 12 minutes or less, and it's really kind of magic. So go check it out, videotapit.com.
I'm a huge fan. I've been using this a lot over the last like week, and we've been having back and forth discussions constantly of me requesting features, and then 30 minutes later it's like, all right, we've shipped it. And it's so much fun to be a part of that process, and the tool is really, really great. So I will like +1 videotapit.com as a great resource for content creators. I've created 4 blog posts, 2 at a time in 30 minutes each, if that makes sense. So I did 2 blog posts in 30 minutes. Then after one feature got added, did another 2 blog posts in 30 minutes. And it's really cool. So
yeah, it makes for easy blog post creation from content that you already have. Like you just upload your video and it's quick.
So good. Pun intended or not intended. Quick.
Yeah.
I know I'm the worst. I'll do mine and get out of the way so you can talk. I'm going to combine a pick and plug. I'm just going to do one for both, and it is the developer language learners Discord. So this came from the idea of like there's several of us in the developer community that are interested in learning other languages. So I speak Spanish fairly well, although not as much. Like I read a lot more than I speak, and then I've been studying French. I just crossed a year on Duolingo, like every day doing 10 minutes or whatever. And so we created a Discord for that. We have channels for languages, and it's not like super, super popular, but we've had a few like Spanish chats where we have a couple of people join and different backgrounds and experience levels and just try to talk and ask questions. And it's been really, really cool. So if you're interested in just talking to other developers that are learning other languages, you can find a redirect link to Discord at my website. So jameshuquick.com/language-learners, and it'll redirect you to the Discord, and it's super cool. So hopefully we'll find some more language learners in the community there.
Awesome. I am going to pick everytimezone.com. So I work with people all over the world sometimes or have friends all over the world, and time travel is very hard. And this website does a fantastic job of trying to make sense of what time zone somebody is in. So I just love their UI, and makes it really easy to figure out what time it is somewhere else in the world. So check that out.
This is the week. This is the week to do that, right?
Yeah, I know, because of the
daylight
time
saving
shift. Oh my goodness, we
messing
hate
up
it
everyone.
so much. It's like we loved it as kids, and now as adults, when we have children and pets, it's the worst. So yes, you're right. It is a great time for that. And don't different places in the world shift for daylight savings at different times? Yeah. So yes, check that out. Everytimezone.com. And then I'm going to plug my Twitter account. So it's at self-teach-me. So I've been trying to be a little bit more active there and share resources and whatnot. So I would love a follow, or even if you want to say hi, at self-teach-me.
To be clear, do not say hi and don't follow. You say hi and you follow, correct?
Well,
I
and if you
make
want to
sure.
start I should also clarify, if you want to start a conversation, say more than hi, because I don't know how to
True,
respond
yes.
to hi.
Yeah. Hi.
No hi
Hi.
DMs.
I get several of those. Yes, please say hi
Hi
and a question
and
or
context,
yes,
yeah.
tell me who you are. Yes,
I ignore those
I
also.
typically do too. So.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess this is going to wrap up this episode. Thanks to both of you for joining. It's been a pleasure to catch up and see you all for the first time in a while, at least on video. I've never met either one of you in person, right? Which still
James,
is
that's so weird to
I've
me.
met both
crazy,
of them in
right?
person. Yeah.
We're not here for you to brag, Amy. We're
That's
we're
fine.
feeling bad for me.
Kap, I hope your delivery goes fantastic.
Thanks.
So uneventful and wonderful.
Thanks.
That's all right.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for having us.
One last shout out to Cap's course in the chat. But thanks everyone again for listening and commenting and supporting. If you're listening on podcast, make sure to leave a rating and review to help us continue to do more of these episodes and have on amazing guests in the future. In the meantime, that's all we got. Official end of the podcast, still live. And then now I'm going to click the end button. There's an awkward transition that I don't know if there's a better way to finish it. But anyway, we'll call the podcast. Thanks, or the broadcast. Thanks everyone for joining and watching, and we'll